So the boys and I just saw James Gunn's Superman this past weekend, and I was kind of nervous going into this film. Superman is a movie I was really excited for when it was first announced, but the more and more I heard about it, I was starting to get a little worried how much stuff James was trying to put into this film. I mean, the last thing we want is another overstuffed and messy movie like Batman vs. Superman. And yeah, I stand by that. But luckily, the boys and I all thought the movie was pretty good. I won't lie, it definitely has its flaws, and it still doesn't hold a candle to the original Dick Donner Superman with Chris Reeve. But it definitely is up there as probably my third favorite live-action depiction of Superman. So let's delve into everything. The good, the bad, and the just straight-up emotional parts of the newest Man of Steel. Spoilers, obviously. Alright, first off, I want to get what I didn't like about the movie out of the way first, so I can delve more into the good stuff later. I do have a lot more positives to say about this movie than negatives, but my main issue with the film is it is paced horribly. I thought the first act was moving at lightning speed, and then the second act in the Pocket Universe really dragged the film to a screeching halt for a little while. And it didn't really pick back up until the third act, and then it kind of just ended. If there's one thing I absolutely hate when it comes to movies, it's when, the big climactic battle or the big ending happens and then the movie just abruptly ends right there, or it cuts to a completely different scene without properly wrapping up everyone's arcs. And, that's how I felt when this movie just, ended. Another thing I had a problem with is that a lot of the side characters don't get too much to do. Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl are kind of just there and don't add much to the plot. And they're clearly going to be explored in further movies and television shows, but I kind of wanted some more here. It's the same for the Daily Planet staff. Besides Lois and Jimmy, the rest of the planet are just here for the sake of, oh hey, Steve Lombard. You guys remember him, right? From the comic book, The last thing I have to say I didn't like too much was the fact that Superman's parents are evil. Look, I understand making Krypton flawed. Man of Steel did a good version where Krypton was definitely not perfect, but I don't know, the comment of conquering the world and taking as many wives as possible really just kind of made me feel like they were cartoonishly evil. However, this does eventually end in a good thing for Clark's character. That's basically everything I disliked, and everything from here on out is pretty positive. So, good stuff. Just gonna say it, David Corenswet freaking killed it as Superman. He really added the personality and charm I expect from this character, and it really felt fresh and refreshing, especially after Henry Cavill's more stoic portrayal of the character. He really played both Clark Kent and Superman as two completely different people, where I could actually picture not knowing Clark was Superman. Rachel Brosnahan also killed it as Lois Lane. She was really plucky and took no shit from anyone in her pursuit of the truth and a good story. Her chemistry with David was really natural and compelling. I can tell these were two young people who really cared about each other, even if they are flawed. Holt's Lex Luthor is also a great performance. Sure, he's campy and over the top for his hatred for Superman, but is that really such a bad thing in a movie like this? Hell, I'm sure there are obsessed haters out there that are exactly like this on Twitter or politicians, but I'm sure you get the idea. I was also surprised with Mr. Terrific in particular. This is a character I really did not have any knowledge on before this movie, and I left it wanting to know more. I think Eddie Gathegi did a great job portraying this character, and I'm glad he got way more development than his fellow Justice Gang members. One of the few scenes with licensed music in this movie was Mr. Terrific kicking ass, and it's really a highlight. Metamorpho was also really cool, and I hope we see more of him as well. James also once again beautifully directs this movie, with a lot of the shots looking very crisp and clean, and the costuming and set design also being gorgeous. I really fell in love with the world of Metropolis in this movie, and it looked great. Fun fact, did you know that most of the flying scenes were practically done? David was basically hanging from wires for a good chunk of the filming. And the score by David Fleming and John Murphy is also one of my favorite scores for a DC movie in a while, probably since Michael Giacchino's The Batman score 3 years prior. I love the modern remix of John Williams' classic theme, and a lot of the original music is very moving and emotional as well. However, all these pale in comparison to what I loved the most about this movie. Superman is a story about one man, a man who is alone in this world, a man who can't really relate to anybody else. Sure, he has a girlfriend, a loving family, tons of friends, but in actuality, he's quite alone. I'm going to let David explain himself why he thinks Superman is an interesting character.
Most powerful superhero in the universe. What's the problem? Well, immediately I was like, well, the problem is you can't relate to anybody and nobody can relate to you. And sure, people are happy to see you and they're like, oh my God, it's fucking Superman. But you don't have heroes unless you have struggles, unless you have crises, unless you have calamities and tragedy. And so you sort of need an imperfect and fragile humanity to have heroes. But then those heroes, that hero in Superman, doesn't get to be a part of that other thing. He can come in and out of it, but he doesn't quite get to be a part of it.
Superman is compelling, not because of what he's meant to do, he's compelling because of what he chooses to do. Sure, I'm not a fan of Krypton being evil, but I feel it makes Superman's choice to be a hero even more impactful. He's not a hero who represents any one person or species.
I wasn't representing anybody except for me and doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die.
There's a particular scene on the Kent farm that really made me tear up. It's a simple scene between a father and a son who has lost his way. A son whose whole world has changed, and he needs to hear the simple reassurance from his father, the man who raised him, that he doesn't need to follow anyone else's guidance but his own. He's sure to make his own mistakes. And that's because Clark's a good man with a good heart full of hope. And that's what I think the best part of this movie is. It shows that hope can still exist, especially in recent times with our world not being as safe as we all want it to be or being kind of dark. You know, anyone is afraid of anyone that is different from them. And I think we can all learn that even the kindness and compassion of just one man, one person, one Superman can change the world for the better.
They've always been wrong about me. I get scared, but that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.